Alright team, before we start today's episode, corporate says we all need to do morning exercises. Alright everyone, get up. Let's get going now. Let's start out with jumping jacks. Alright, 1, 2, 3. Alright, time to get to work. Man, those few jumping jacks were actually quite a lot for me. I've been recovering from a pretty bad cold, so that just wasn't pleasant. Anyways, welcome back to 40 Frames Ago, the show where we turn back the clock 40 years to uncover the cult favorites, bold experiments, and cinematic curiosities that define the era. Last week we crossed swords with the immortals in the neon-drenched fantasy world of Highlander. This week we're shifting gears, literally and figuratively, and heading straight into the chaotic, culture-clashing comedy of Gung Ho. This workplace dramedy from Ron Howard takes us inside a struggling American auto plant shaken up when it's taken over by a Japanese company, igniting a collision of work styles, pride, misunderstandings, and unexpected solidarity. Powered by Michael Keaton's at-peak fast-talking charm and backed by an ensemble cast of blue-collared misfits and executives under pressure, Gung Ho blends sharp social commentary with 80s optimism and big laughs. It's a movie about identity, community, and what happens when two very different worlds try to build something together, literally one car at a time. If you're new to the show, here's how it works. Every week we jump back exactly 40 years, check out what was happening at the box office, pick a film that premiered on this date, and dig into everything surrounding it. The cast, the crew, the home video releases, behind the scenes stories, and all the odd and interesting details I uncover along the way. Then I wrap it all up with my thoughts after revisiting the movie. So grab your hard hat, clock in, and let's fire up the time circuits as we roll back on 1986. Looking at the box office for week 11 of 1986, which is March 14th through the 20th, we've got some interesting movement. Gung Ho, one of the two new releases this week, rockets straight into first place, pulling in a little over $9 million. A strong start for a film made with a $13 million budget. Meanwhile, Pretty in Pink slips from the top spot, but it still brings in a little over $5 million, giving Paramount a very happy week with the top two films under their banner. In contrast, Highlander, which I reviewed last week, takes a hard hit, dropping 47% and falling out of the top 10 entirely. Not great for a movie carrying a $19 million budget. This week's newcomers are Gung Ho and Crossroads. So let's take a moment to look at Crossroads. Crossroads is a musical drama directed by Walter Hill, centered on Eugene Maritone, played by Ralph Macchio, a Juilliard-trained classical guitarist obsessed with the blues, and especially the legend of Robert Johnson's Deal with the Devil. Eugene breaks bluesman Willie Brown, who is played by Joe Seneca, out of a New York facility, and together they head to the Mississippi in search of Johnson's rumored lost 30th song. Their journey leads to the film's now iconic finale, a guitar duel against the Devil's Own shredder, Jack Butler, played by legendary guitarist Steve Vai. Robert Ebert even called the movie a cheerful cross between a slice of life and a supernatural fable. A fun review if you haven't read it. Crossroads brings in $2.7 million this week, landing in 6th place. I haven't seen this one, or honestly ever heard of it until today, so it goes straight into my list of shame. The other new film, Gung Ho, comes with the IMDb description: when a Japanese automobile company buys an American plant, the American liaison must mediate the clash of work attitudes between the foreign management and native labor. And that poster, yeah, catches your eye. I haven't seen this one either, but it seems more up my alley. Michael Keaton is just such a likable, personable guy, and it's hard to say no to giving this movie a shot. So, since we're focusing on Gung Ho, let's talk a little bit more about the cast and the crew. Here's the fully fired up factory floor rundown of the team that made Gung Ho run at full production speed. Michael Keaton shows up with his trademark fast-talking charm, cranking the optimism dial all the way up as Hunt Stevenson, the guy who believes he can pep talk a town back to life. Getty Wananobi keeps everything running with precision, delivering a performance that blends strict discipline with a surprisingly warm human core, the perfect counterbalance to Keaton's chaos. George Wendt brings that blue-collar, let's roll up our sleeves energy. Mimi Rogers adds the emotional horsepower, giving the story a heart beyond factory quotas and paychecks. Lau Gantz and Pablo Mandel, the writing duo behind some of the 80s best character-driven comedies, fine-tune the script with humor, heart, and just enough workplace absurdity to keep things humming. And Ron Howard, still early in his directing rise, oversees the whole operation like a master foreman, turning culture clash tension into a surprisingly warm, funny, and uplifting comedy. That's the crew, and they're the reason GungHO runs like a well-oiled, feel-good machine that's still firing on all cylinders today. Well, I picked up a copy of GungHO on Blu-ray because there's no 4K option for this. And look, I've bought a lot of discs over the years, and some blow you away, and some feel like collector tier celebrations. And then there's this one, which feels like the studio shrugged and said, hey, we made a disc, you're welcome. So yeah, I'm officially calling this release the Not So GungHO edition. No fancy 4K transfer, no deluxe packaging, no artwork on the disc. Just a disc in a box, doing the bare minimum to exist. The picture quality is poor, like DVD at best poor, soft, fuzzy, occasionally blurry, and definitely not what you'd expect from a Blu-ray in 2026. It has that, look, we're not winning any awards here, but we clocked in for our shift vibe. And the audio, it's basic. Clear, balanced, but nothing to write home about. And sure, this isn't Top Gun with jets exploding through your soundbar, but they could have done so much more for this release. Bonus features, aka the lean production line, that's where it goes full gung-ho. The tight budget, high spirits approach. This just doesn't come loaded with extras. You get some crumbs. You get an auto commentary from a film historian, but nothing from the director, the cast, or the crew, or anyone who worked on this film. And you get an interview from Getty Wananobi and an interview from George Wendt. No retrospective, no making of doc, no cast reunion where Michael Keaton speed talks about the 80s. What you get is basically the minimum Ocean requires. The case is made from this ultra thin plastic, the kind that bends if you look at it too hard. It honestly feels like the packaging itself is trying to cut costs on the factory floor. Is it the ultimate feature-packed film edition that fans hope for? Absolutely not. It's honestly a pretty sad excuse for a Blu-ray release. I'm still heading to the movie room to give it a watch, and I'll be back with my review and thoughts once I've taken the disc for a spin.
Yeah, this is 40 frames ago.
Gung Ho is one of those movies that feels like opening a time capsule labeled 1980s American workplace comedy. And that's part of its charm, the setup. A Japanese car company taking over a struggling American auto plant. It's simple, but gives the movie plenty of room to play with culture clashes, misunderstandings, and the big, broad comedy the era was known for. What surprised me most is how Gung-Ho mixes its silliness with a real sense of economic anxiety. It'll be goofy in one scene and unexpectedly grounded in the next. A balance that shouldn't work as well as it does, but somehow it clicks. The factory setting feels lived in, the stakes feel just real enough, and even the bigger comedic beats still connect to something relatable. It's not subtle, far from it, but it's sincere in that classic Ron Howard way. The cast sells a lot of this. Names like Michael Keaton, Getty Wananobi, and George Wendt set the tone immediately. And on that note, I really like Michael Keaton's character here. He's incredibly likable, charismatic, and brings a grounded human appeal to the story. He's the kind of character who holds the entire film together simply by being someone the audience wants to root for. And, of course, George's character Buster. His power walk scene deserves its own spotlight. It's over the top, epic, ridiculous, and genuinely hilarious. I had multiple laugh out loud moments during this movie, and that scene is easily one of the biggest ones. But on the flip side, George's character Buster as a whole does not work for me at all. Beyond being loud and abrasive, he's also a racist towards the Japanese workers. There's a scene that is hard to watch in the supermarket where he's drunk. It makes you just hate that character. It's hard to see why any of the other guys would want to be buddies with him. Instead of comic relief, he feels more like a coworker you try to avoid during lunch because you know exactly the kind of comments he's going to make. Is the movie broad? Definitely. Is it dated? Absolutely. But it's earnest, funny in that factory floor chaos way, and surprisingly heartfelt. Gung Ho might not reinvent the wheel, but it works as a snapshot of its era and story about people trying to keep up in a world that's changing faster than they are. Flashback fact. Gung Ho was popular enough that it actually led to a television spin-off later on that same year, premiering in December of 1986. The series didn't last long, but it's proof the movie hit a cultural nerve during its release. Go on now, don't idle now. Give that like button a little tune-up tap, just enough to keep the engines humming. Hit subscribe if you're clocking in for that early shift. Confident, determined, and maybe running on too little sleep and too much coffee. And don't worry, this ride doesn't require overtime, calisthenics, or a visit from upper management. It's Gung Ho after all, the comedy without breaks. Buckle up and let's keep this assembly line moving. Next up, we roll into week 12 of 1986, leaving behind the factory floors, culture clashes, and Michael Keaton power diplomacy of Gung Ho, and pedaling straight into something completely different. No more union meetings, no more corporate takeovers, no more trying to keep an entire town from falling apart on the assembly line. Now we're talking dirt tracks, BMX bikes, full face helmets, and kids launching themselves off ramps like gravity is a polite suggestion. That's right, it's time for rad. And trust me, no boardrooms this time, just a whole lot of air. And that's a wrap on our trip through Gung Ho. Let me know what you think. Did you catch this one back in the 80s when factory comedies were everywhere and everyone had an opinion on foreign car companies? Or is this your first time stepping onto the assembly line, navigating culture clashes, pep talks, and Michael Keaton trying his absolute best to keep an entire town from melting down? Either way, grab your hard hat, straighten your clip-on tie, and meet me back here on Friday. Until then, keep your efficiency standards reasonable, your union meetings civil, and I'll see you in the rewind.
Neon lights a flicker and the story starts to glow.